Shalom, Apostle Hakim back at you with the truth, getting all praises to Yahweh Shem Shai Shem Kakwadash. And I'm going to title this video NATO, Russia, the US, and prophecies. And let's see where the spirit takes me. Anyway, everybody's talking about the war in over there on the other side of the world, or Russia declaring war against the Ukraine. And when you watch the news here in America, which is called the MSM, mainstream media, they give you one side of the story, which is the Ukrainian side, how they're, they were attacked unjustly. They'll never give you both sides of the story of what's really going on. And I received a video that the Apostle Ramlab sent me, and I've watched about maybe half of it. What I may do is kind of copy, unless the brothers already got it, the elders and so forth, bishops and apostles, I'll pass it to individuals such as Manatazakba, Elder Manatazakba, Elder Yashawamba, Elder Malcolm. I can go on and on with the brothers. I remember a lot of your names, especially leaders. I'm not good with names. I used to be good with names, but and I'm pretty sure when they get it, if they don't have it already, they're gonna do videos on it. And I would want to do a video on it, but maybe not yet. Maybe the spirit jump on me to get more into it. But this particular video, if you didn't see it, this guy, he goes into the steak and potatoes of what's really going on out there, because he's been living out there for a number of years. He has a Ukrainian wife and a couple of children. He has children out there. I don't know if he had a couple or just one. So you know what's going on when you're at the actual place. A local person could tell you what actually is going on and how did that get out of hand, so to speak. You got the locals, they know what's going on. They know faces. They know, all the same as all politics is local. Because you got certain politicians, they'll run to be president and they'll lose their state because their state knows that politician, that governor or that senator or whatever, that congressperson. So you, like us here, the elders and apostles, we can tell you the straight skinny on what went on at One West, because we were actually there. We were eyewitnesses to that. All right. Anyway, I wanted to kind of go into the comment board. I wanted to kind of go around, but this just came to mind, so I might as well go into it. Let me bring up a pad. Let's see where the spirit takes me. Like I said, and you gotta, if you don't get anything else, you gotta understand these prophecies. There's a timeline for the prophecies. You got certain brothers that they'll know certain prophecies, but they don't know the timeline. One prophecy has to take place before the next prophecy comes to pass. The prophecies are set up in order, because I had a back and forth with one of the members of the IUIC. He went under a particular avatar, and he said, and I actually did a video on it. What was it, yesterday or Friday? I'm not going to bring it up now, but he basically said that the destruction could come first and then the MOTB. Well, if you go to Revelation 14, chapter 14, let me get the verse for you. And this whole chapter is good. I'm almost tempted to read the whole chapter because there's a lot of meat in this chapter. Let me start the 6th verse. I may jump down. Let's see. Revelation 14, verse 6. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel. The everlasting gospel, which is the word, the whole book, to preach unto them that dwell on the earth. To preach unto them that dwell on the earth. Let's bring out that word gospel and the word preach. Because part of the prophecy is the setup of the different camps. Us, we're part of the prophecies. We're set up to prophesy, but it was prophesied that we're going to come out and that men will come out and prophesy, right? So let me look up the word gospel. Euangelion. A reward for good tidings. Good tidings, the glad tidings of the kingdom of the Most High, soon to be set up. Basically, it means good news. And Isaiah, what is it? Isaiah 61. The word is good tidings instead of gospel. Good tidings and gospel mean the same things. Good tidings means good news, you know? Like if a woman is pregnant, she does a sonogram and she finds out it's going to be a boy. They put out the news that it's going to be a boy, you know? Or it was a boy. So people, oh, she had a boy. She always wanted a boy. She had 3 girls. Now she got a boy, so she's happy. So that's what good tidings in the gospel. The gospel means good news. What is the good news? The fact that we're going to be rewarded with the kingdom, starting with the elect first. So I don't have to read all of this. So let me come back. Speaks about an angel flying in heaven, in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel. The everlasting gospel is represented by the scriptures. To preach, let's look up the word preach. Because that word preach actually means to prophesy. Let's see what it says here. It's not going to tell you here, but the word preach means to prophesy. So this destruction can't come to pass, or the kingdom can't come to pass unless the prophets come on the scene. The Most High is not just going to bring the destruction and then the kingdom, and then you get the prophets. No, you get the prophets first before the destruction, before the kingdom. Preach unto them that dwell. Let me come back to this here. It says, I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel, which is the word, to preach. He set up the prophets. This gospel shall be preached throughout the whole world in the oikoumene sense, and then the end shall come. That's the order. That's the order. It's not the end shall come and then the prophet shall teach. That's out of order. All prophecies are done in order. This current situation going on with Russia attacking, declaring war against the Ukraine, that's all part of prophecy. But now, like I said previously, you're gonna have the other camps that really don't have all the prophecies in order. They're gonna say, oh, we might be out of here next month. We might be out of here 3 months from now. We might be out of here 6 months from now. you're not going to be out of here very soon, because there's a prophecy that has to come before the destruction and before the kingdom, and when it comes out, everybody's going to be looking at the GMS videos. They're going to be flocking to the GMS videos because they're going to say the GMS was always right. The men of GMS was always right. So I'm not getting all hyped. Oh, the Most High might come next month. He might come next week. It says, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on earth and to every nation, because guess what? We're not just preaching the gospel to Israelites, we're preaching the gospel, and we're preaching the word, the scriptures, to the other nations. That's why we know who Edom is, as opposed to Moab and Ammon and Ishmael and Cush and the Assyrians and so forth, and the Persians and the Medes and Gog and Magog, because you're dealing with nations. It says, dwell on the earth and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, which before the actual nations, the Israelites that are scattered among the people, because when it says to every nation, kindred and tongue and people, it's talking about people, the Israelites scattered among the people. That's in Revelation 7, verse 9. So it says, it goes on to say, saying with a loud voice, fear the Most High and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. Because this destruction in Revelation 9 said this is gonna take place in one particular hour, one particular day, of one particular month, of one particular year. It says, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. Okay, who made the sea and the heavens and the earth that we supposed to worship? Yahweh Shai made all these things. So we are to worship him, but in order. We worship the Heavenly Father, then we worship his beloved Son. So we know right here, when it says fear the Most High, we know it's talking about Yahweh and Yahweh Shai, because it said that he made, worship him, that he made the heavens and the earth and the sea and the fountains of water. The Lord didn't do that. The Lord Yahweh didn't come on the scene until the second chapter of Genesis. The creation in Genesis, the first chapter, was given to Yahweh Shai and angels. That's also in, what is that, Hebrews 1 and 1. 1 and 2. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon. So now you have to know, what is Babylon? Who is Babylon? What's Babylon all about? Well, we know through the Spirit and through studying that Babylon is this place right here. Is fallen. And how is Babylon going to fall? By destruction. And one of the main nations that's going to do it is the former USSR, the former Soviet Union. And what's happening now is, like I said, there's a deeper story behind what you currently see on the news, on the mainstream media. There's a deeper story why it's going on. That's why I spoke about that video that I'm going to send. If you men haven't got it yet, I'll see and I'll send it to you. But if you do have it, you can send it, mainly send it to the leadership of the various camps. And it's up to you to give it to the other men, you know. But this particular video, the guest on the particular show, he said that he's married to a Ukrainian woman. He has either a child or a couple of. I know he has at least one child. He's been living there before he went over there to that area of the former Soviet Union, which the Ukraine is a part of the former Soviet Union. Is a thing called balkanization, when you have states that break up into separate republics or states. So what the Most High is doing, more than what Putin wants to do, the Most High is putting the spirit on him to gather all these nations back together to rebuild the former Soviet Union, the USSR. For what reason? To destroy this place. And this individual, he basically says, look, if they actually have a nuclear game of tag and a nuclear war, if they go head to head, they said that the Russians, as it stands with their military might, will defeat the US. Just saying. And that's what's going to happen anyway, biblically. You know, that's what's going to happen biblically. And we're in that time. But like I said, one prophecy has to come to pass before the actual destruction comes. And it's going to tell you that in this same verse. It says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark, if any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark, and that word mark, you can look it up, charagma, which is a physical thing, in his forehead, his physical forehead, or in his hand, his physical hand, and I believe that's the word dextrose, which means right hand. It says the same, what they're doing over there in what is that, in Sweden right now. They've been doing that for the last, I don't know how many years, the last, I don't know, 5 years. So you have it's in the thousands. It could be 10,000s, it could be in the 100,000s, but there's a lot of people that openly accept the MOTB. Anyway, it says, so this is the destruction right here. The 10th verse is destruction. And they're going to be destroyed because what they do in the 9th verse. It said, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. Why is he going to be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the angels and the presence of the Lamb? Because that's Revelation, the 12th chapter, the war in heaven. Michael and his angel fought against the dragon and his angels, which the dragon is the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan on the earth, which is NATO, the EU, the United States, Canada, which United States and Canada are members of NATO, not EU. You have EU nations that are part of NATO, and you have NATO nations that are part of the EU. So that's the whole beast right there. EU represents the political part, the economic part. That's why you have a dollar that I think it came on the scene, if I'm not mistaken, somebody could put it in the comment section. I believe it was 89. I'm almost positive it was 89 that it came on the scene. So they still use the euro to this day. So that's a political and economic side. The military side is NATO. And if the Ukraine was a member of NATO, and I think there was talk about the Ukraine becoming a part of NATO, you have a lot of those areas. If I brought up a map, you have a lot of, as a matter of fact, let me do that. Let me just do that. Map of NATO, of NATO countries. Let me try 2022. Okay, here we go. NATO multinational battle groups. Because NATO was, when you go into the origins of NATO, the origins of NATO came about after World War II, in 10 years after, well, yeah, a little bit more than 10 years, 12 years after. No, it could be longer than that. Because World War II, you want to put an actual year on it, let's say 45. So 55, that's 10 years, 56, 57, 58. So it was like 12 years. And this was during the Cold War between Russia and these states. These states, before they assembled as a, the NATO, and for that matter, the EU. And when you go to the old dictionary, it tells you that NATO was put together, which is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. I spoke about this many times in the past, so I'm forced to go back into it. Was put together because Russia, in case Russia declared war against any of those nations, let's say Russia attacked France. Well, if Russia attacked France, then the US has to get involved. Canada has to get involved, Italy, Spain, and so forth and so on. They would have to all get involved. The UK, which the UK is no longer a member of the EU, but they're still a member of the of NATO. So to attack one NATO member is to attack all of them. So now Russia is attacking the Ukraine, but the Ukraine is not a NATO nation. Else there would have been a full-scale war. But what the US is doing in other nations, they're supplying them with weapons. And ultimately, they're going to take Russia, and we'll see what's going to happen. We'll see what's going to happen. Russia will take the Ukraine, all right? Just like, what was this, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, it was in the news concerning, what was that, Crimea. Remember that was in the news 8, 9 years ago, and we did videos on that. The Russians invaded Crimea, and the Russians took over Crimea. And I believe that's a Russian state. I'm not going to a part of the old union coming back together. Because remember, Crimea, not Crimea, the Ukraine was a part of the former USSR. Jeremiah 50 speaks about assembly of nations, of great nations. And what I found out was about half of the population of the Ukraine are pro-Soviet, are pro-Russian. So really you have a civil war going on in the Ukraine. And there's another map where they show on that same video, the guy brings out a map showing how the Russian military has the Ukraine surrounded. And there's a deeper meaning behind that. Anyway, it says NATO multinational battle groups. Okay, Latvia. It says Canada, Albania, Czech Republic, Iceland, Italy, Poland, Montenegro, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain. And these are some of the main nations, a part of the original beast, which Spain was in that. Spain was a part of that. Germany, you had Upper Germany and Lower Germany, or Germania Major, Germania Minor. All right. You had the UK, which was Britannia at that time, during the time of the Roman rule. the UK was known as Britannia. So those were some of the old nations. Like I said, there were two Germanys. There was France. I'm looking for Greece. Spain, UK. America wasn't on the scene. And Canada wasn't on the scene at that time. So let's come back. Let's come back to this. So the Most High is gathering them together. He's assembling those great nations in Jeremiah 50. Anyway, it says, and if you, I'm so tempted to go into Jeremiah 50 and Jeremiah 51. You know, we went into Nahum 3. Now you have scholars that say, no, that was talking about back then. Yes, there were events that took place back then in prophecy, but it's actually talking about right now, twofold. So where am I? Revelation 14:8 again, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, and that great city, which we know what that is. Even you have certain Edomite pastors that'll come out and they'll say, yeah, Babylon is America. The great city Babylon is America, or the daughter of Babylon is America, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of a fornication, meaning her philosophies. That's why you have all these major nations. They're members of the UN because they laid down, and the UN just so happens to be in America, in New York, because that's where the power comes from. The power is in New York through the UN. The power is also in DC, which is not even a state. It's 3 states. They down there in the DC area, people call it the DMV. What they say, Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia, because the DC, the District of Columbia, they took 10 miles square, and it was 3 states: Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. And the Pentagon happens to be in Virginia, Langley, Virginia. It says, doomed for worshipers of the beast. 9th verse, and the 3rd angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast, which is this system. So if you're in the military, whether you bow down or not, you worship the beast. If you sign up for the military, you worship the beast, because you're gonna, there's people that bow down to a king, but if he gets the chance, he'll kill the king. So you have people that actually go through the motions of bowing down to somebody, but really they're setting them up to kill them. That happens all the time in history. So if you go through the motions of worshiping a thing, even though you don't worship it in your heart, guess what? You still worship it. So if you're a part, what happened with the Crown Vic? A lot of people had to make a decision as to whether they wanted to keep the job or not. You had the police, you had the firemen, you had people in the military. Remember that campaign? You got it, and it was through government. It was through government, man. And then they said any private corporation or company that has a contract with the federal government, their employees have to get the Crown Vic. But now they pulled it all back, because now they know how many, the percentage of people that are willing to line up and take it. and the percentage of people that are not willing to take it, and you had a lot of police that didn't want to take it, you had a lot of military that didn't want to take it, you had a lot of firemen, and you had nurses, because nurses and doctors are semi part of quasi part of the government. Because how do they get paid? They get paid through Medicare, Medicaid. So you had certain nurses that went ahead and took it, male nurses, female nurses. You had certain doctors that took it, but then you had a certain percentage that said, no, we ain't taking it, and we're willing to give up our career. Something in their spirit told them not to take it. And that spirit that told them not to take it was a right spirit, a righteous spirit. They don't know why they didn't want to take it. So it said, let me read again, 9th verse. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast, if you're in the military, any, 4, 5, 6, 7 branches of the military, including the Space Force, you're part of that. You're part of the beast system. If you're a cop, if you're a fireman, if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, if you're a teacher, a school teacher in America is connected quasi to the federal government, man. Who did I miss? It says, and his image, and his image is not a picture of Caesar Borgia. So Bishop Nate should stop teaching that nonsense. When these people were getting the jab, they wasn't bringing out no picture. Well, here now you took the jab. Okay, kiss the picture of Jesus Christ. The image represents the Roman system. That's all it means, is the Roman system. Let me look that up. So when Bishop Nate teaches that, he's clearly going off. Let me go. Let me see what image. Icon. Which means icon, picture. So you can understand. Like if you see a picture or a statue of a Washington, D.C., you're reminded of, the birth of the nation. He was a general that that fought against the British, back in the 1700s. You think of the Constitution and all this other stuff. So when you see a certain image, it brings things to your mind. So that image is the ancient pagan Roman Empire. It said the image, figure, likeness, an image of a thing, the heavenly things, use of moral likeness of renewed men to the Most High, the image of the Son of the Most High, into which true Christians are transformed as likeness, not only to the heavenly body, but also to the most holy and blessed state of mind. Right, because it's a state of mind. An image brings a state of mind to you, a certain state of mind. You see something, you see the image of them Edomites hanging Jake, and they're laughing, and they got kids out there laughing and clapping. You get mad. You picture yourself going back to that time, man, and what you would do. They made movies dealing with Jake going into slavery. 12 Years a Slave was the last major one. You had 12 Years a Slave. You had Birth of a Nation. You had Roots. You had Mandingos and Mandingo drum or drums. Roots. And I remember when Roots came out, it was a miniseries, and I believe that was the first miniseries. I think Rich Man, Poor Man was before that one, and I remember seeing that with Nick Nolte. I got into that. and then they came out with Roots, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember when I would go to school, I was in high school, and I wasn't saying nothing to so-called white people and my teacher. I was looking at him like, I wanted to, do something to him. And all this Jake was doing that because it was an image that brought back a time. This is what y'all did to us, So that image is the Roman system. Like I said, they're not going to bring, when they issue the MOTB, they're not going to give you, they're not going to bring out a picture of Caesar Borgia and tell you to kiss it. It says Christians are transformed is likeness not only to the heavenly body, but also to the most holy and blessed state of mind. State of mind. You see an image, you see an image of your grandmother. She might have died 20 years ago. But then you see the picture of your grandmother in an album, and you think about the good things that she did for you, man. Which the Messiah possesses, the image of one in whom the likeness of anyone is seen, applied to men on account of the power of command, to the Messiah on account of the divine nature and absolute moral excellence. Hey, if you see an image of the flag or the actual American flag, if you're a true blue American, you might salute the flag. Okay. Let me go to the root. Let's see what the root says. That's Iko, which means to be like. So what is this current beast system doing? They're trying to be like the system in the past, 2,000 plus years ago, the Roman system, because you had a conglomerate of nations that the Romans took over. And what Putin is doing, they're saying, well, he's a bad guy, he's a new Hitler. First of all, what he's doing is the same way America became a nation. It started with 13 states, and they went out west. They went further south, and they went out west. They had a civil war because the southern states didn't want to comply with the president, which were the northern states, which are the original colonies. They didn't want to comply to it under the what's the term? I forget the term. Something of the Confederate. Damn, I can't think of it. It wasn't a Declaration of Independence. It was. It has something to do with the Confederacy, and I forget the whole term. And I normally know it, but it's, as soon as I turn this off, it'll come to me. But it was the states had an option whether they can join a union or not be a part of the union. So the southern states didn't want to be a part of the union. So it was Lincoln that declared war against them and said, we're going to take your slaves. We're going to emancipate your slaves. He never freed the slaves. What he did was he declared an emancipation proclamation, which means to hand over. So what happened was the former slaves were handed over to the federal government, and they were slaves of the federal government, which they would not put out in fields. Anybody that works for the government is a slave to the government. All of us are connected to the government under your birth certificate, under your social security number, under your adhesion contracts, which are applications. They're not applications. Application is really a contract. You agree to do something by signing that contract. Once you read something and sign it, that you just made a contract. Anyway, so this is a better definition. The root word icon, I'm sorry, ico, which means to be like. So now let's come back. So you can learn a lot when you go into these words. You pick into these words. All right, where am I? Okay, let me go back to the 9th verse. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast, meaning if you're a part of this system, because there's going to be a time when you're not going to be a part of the system if you don't take the MOTB. It says in Isaiah, what is that? Isaiah 65, my servants shall eat, but they shall not, but you shall not eat. So we're going to be pushed out of the system. We're going to be pushed off the grid, so to speak. So I don't know what the Most High is doing, but you know what the Most High is showing us? You have a lot of Edomites are doing this. A lot of Edomites are just living off the grid or semi off the grid. A lot of them own campers. I see it all the time. I'll see like a car with like towels over the windows, and I know that that's a person that's homeless, but he's living in his car. I went to this one, not Walmart. Was that a Walmart? I believe it was a Walmart. It was way upstate, and it was in the daytime. I went up there a couple of times, and the parking lot, they had an agreement where these these what do you call it? Not gazebos, Wanabagos, I think you call it, those big, super big vans that are like houses. And there you can see them parked. They have new vans and some used vans, but you can see that the windows are covered, the front windows, because somebody's living in there, man. So they're semi off the grid. It says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark, because if you worship the beast and the system, the Roman system, which we're living in the revised Roman Empire, and receive his mark in his right hand on his forehead, or his forehead on his right hand. All right. That's what we here at GMS been talking about since we got on YouTube, before we got on YouTube. And there's going to come a time where you other camps out there and you other Israelites, you're going to say, you know what, GMS was right. Now there's other camps that know that the MOTB is what we, what we say, been saying it is, but a lot of them don't teach it. They don't push it. We're always pushing it. Anytime there's an article, we're doing a video on it, right? Because going back to what Athon said, oh, you know what? The destruction could happen, and then we can get MOTB. So I did a video. I said, no, how that doesn't make any sense. Because the thing that's going to be destroyed is the thing or the system that's going to give you the MOTB in the first place. So you're not thinking straight. It says, 10th verse, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture. What's that? The destruction into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone. So you have these Edomite Christian scholars saying it means this, is talking about hellfire, and such and so and so. We know exactly what it's talking about. It's talking about the bow of steel, the ICBM, and the individual in that interview, he was speaking about supersonic missiles, and he said even if there wasn't a bomb on it, the speed that the supersonic rocket goes, that will do major damage, even if there's no warheads. He said, even if it was filled with lead, and there's no way you can stop them. That's in Joel, the 2nd chapter. Most High compared that army, the mechanized army of the Most High, as soldiers lined up. What Joel saw was the missiles pelting the earth, pelting the U.S., America, Babylon the Great. It says, which is poured out without mixture into the cup. When you make a drink, you put the base liquor in there and you mix stuff with it, right? Well, the Most High gonna give you He gonna give it to you straight. You want a vodka? Here, boom, there's a vodka. It says mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he, this system, shall be tormented with fire and brimstone, not down under beneath in the ground with hell, with a devil with a pitchfork, but when these missiles hit ground zero, in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the holy angels and the presence of the Lamb, meaning there was war in heaven. Michael and his angel fought against the dragon and his angels, and the dragon did not prevail, and there was no space found at all for him in heaven. I'm merely paraphrasing Revelation 12. So when the destruction comes, the angels are going to be up in the air, and at the same time, we're going to get beamed up. So we're going to see the destruction too. Psalms 91. It says, "In the smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever," meaning a long time. That smoke is going to billow for a number of years, and we're just going to let it bellow. That smoke is going to come up. The same thing happened when the World Trade Centers went down. We went down there 2 weeks later, and there was smoke coming up out of that, out of the basement, man. And I've been in those buildings, man. I've been in building 1 and building 2. I've never been in building 7, but I've passed by building 7. I've been in there many a times. And I used to hate going down there because of the situation in 93. In the back of my mind, I said, they're going to hit this motherfucker again. And sure enough, they did. And like I said, I don't know the exact, I mean, you could research it, but it was a while before that smoke cleared. I don't know if it was 6 months. I don't know if it was a year. But so can you imagine when this place gets pelted with, millions of warheads? That smoke is going to be billowing for a while. I would say a number of years. It says, "In the smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receives the mark of his name," which is the charagma, which is the MOTB. So it says, if you take it in the 10th, what is that? Not the 10th verse, the 9th verse. If you take it, you're gonna get fired up. So Athan was trying to say, well, this could happen before this. No, it can't happen before that, because who's going to give you the mark? Who's going to give you the MOTB? They're going to be destroyed. It says, here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of the Most High and the faith of the word. There is Yahweh Shai, not no Jesus. No Israelite out there has no business calling on the Lord as the name Jesus. First of all, Jesus doesn't mean anything. It's not a word. And the letter J didn't come about until 1524. 13 verse, "And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Right, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord Yahweh from henceforth, yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors and their works do follow them. Now it says they're going to rest. Did not Samuel, wasn't he rested when the witch of Endor called his spirit back up at the order of Lahab? Actually, Saul. We used to say that Lahab was Saul. And she actually called this was a witch. Somebody that got to receive the power on the left-hand side of Satan was able to call up a righteous man. And that was Samuel. And the first thing Samuel said, why disquieteth me? I believe he said, in my rest. Somebody can put it up. I'm not going to go through it. And then he prophesied after from the grave. Because Saul said, what do you see? And she said, I see an old man. And she described Samuel, and Saul knew that was Samuel. And then the Spirit opened her eyes that she saw that was Saul. And she reminded Saul before she called the Spirit, she said that we can't work with people as far as the left-hand side power is concerned, because Saul gave an order not to deal with witches, which was the law. So he said, go ahead and do it anyway. And then she knew that was Saul. And what did Samuel tell him? He said, you and your son going to die. And what did Saul do? He committed suicide. And by the way, this proves that you got Christians saying, well, Saul committed suicide, so you're going straight to hell because you commit suicide. That's what the Christians teach, but they don't understand the scriptures. Now, if that was the case, what did Samuel say to him? He said, I think he said, tomorrow at the same time, you will be with me. Well, wait a minute. Is Samuel in hell? No, he's in the spiritual realm. He's resting. He's chilling. All right. So where would Saul be? What was that? The next day or two? He will be in the same place in the spiritual realm. Not no burning in hell. It says, and I looked and behold a white cloud, and upon which represents a so-called UFO, and upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, which is our Lord. And Ezra said, in 2nd Ezra 13th chapter, he thought he was on a mountain. He looked down to see where he got the mountain from. That's how big the ship was. Now that ship can hold millions of people, if not 1 million people. Because it's not, the Most High is not delivering, the Lord is not delivering a great number of Israelites. He's delivering the 144. He's delivering the elect, which could be 1 million people, a couple million people. We don't know the whole number. We do know in Revelation 7 and 9, it speaks about that great multitude. So we don't know the number of that great multitude. It says, having on his head a golden crown. Now, in Revelation 19, it said he had many crowns on his head. So we know he didn't have a stack of crowns, 12 crowns, 13 crowns on his head, and he was balancing them. No, it represents the nations that he's going to take down. That's also in Daniel 7. So right here, it just said he had a crown on his head, representing rulership. And in his hand, a sharp sickle. Did he actually have a sickle in his hand? No. It says, and another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud of the ship, thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. What does that mean? It's time for this man to go down. It's time to take this man down and to deliver the Israelites, starting with the elect. And he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. And another angel came out of the temple, which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. Now remember in Matthew 13, it said it was the angels bound them in bundles, the tares, which are the Edomites, the enemy, and put them in a furnace. That furnace represent the missiles. Malachi was that Malachi 4:1. Behold, the day shall come that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. What's going to make them into stubble? The ICBM missiles. The bow of steel shall thrust them through. And another angel came out from the altar, which had power over fire, the missiles, the silos, and cried with a loud voice, with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, which is our Lord, saying, "Thrust in thy sharp sickle and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth." Now you got to go to Isaiah 63. So that should immediately come to your mind. For her grapes are full ripe. So who are the grapes? The Edomites. Because it mentions that in Isaiah 63. And it says that the Lord's garment is going to be stained with their blood. Is the Lord going to actually be have stains on his garment? No. This is what do you call it? Symbolic. This is poetic. This is why Esau can't understand it. Esau doesn't know how to do the spirit to take all these prophecies from the Old Testament and the New Testament and say this means the same event. Armageddon is the same event as the valley of Jehoshaphat, Joel 3. The Lord is going to make a sacrifice of the land of Edom, which is America, which is Babylon. They don't understand it because all these Isaiah, Obadiah, Joel, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Zechariah, Malachi, Micah, all these prophets, all these different, and I'm just mentioning a few of them. They all prophesied about the same. They received visions of the same event, of the same thing, but in different ways. Daniel, how can I forget Daniel? Daniel in Daniel 7, verse 9 on down. And we're living in that time. We're living in the time of Daniel 7 and 9. The 9th verse is getting ready to come to pass. We're living in the time of Daniel chapter 2, second chapter. Jack Daniels chapter 7, inside joke. What's going on right now? Let me do this. Let me go to Daniel. And this is not for you men in GMS have been in this thing for 13, 14, 15 years. You already know it. This is for the ones that need to understand prophecy, because I was surprised when Aethon made that statement. He said the destruction could come first and then the microchip. What? As the Latin tribes would say, this Dominican, they would say, KK? What? Anyway, let me come down to Daniel 2, verse 40. Now it says in the headline, it says Rome, which they're partially right. but they don't understand the second part of this. You get Rome is a part of it, because the 40th verse, and the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdue all things, and as iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces and bruise. That's the Roman Empire. And whereas thou sawest the feet and the toes, part is clay and part iron. Now, what these scholars will tell you, it was talking about when the Western Roman Empire was destroyed. You had the Eastern. No, I ain't talking about. It's talking about right now. It's talking about the EU nations and the NATO nations. It says, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with the miry clay, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And that's what's happening right now. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is mixed with clay. That's why the UK, there was a thing called Brexit, which means Britain's exit from the EU because of economic reasons. It says 44, and in the days of these kings shall the Most High in heaven set up a kingdom. And this is not talking about the Roman Empire. It's talking about right now. And how is the kingdom being set up? When we go out on the highways and the byways, which shall never be destroyed. That's a heavenly kingdom. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, other nations. This kingdom is for Israel, Revelation 21. And had the walls great and high, and at the gate, the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. But it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Now, where am I? Give me a second. Okay, 45th verse. For as much as thou sawest the stone was cut out of the mountain, Ezra 13, without hands. Ezra was looking down to see where did he cleave that mountain from, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, because those nations, gold represents the Babylonians, silver represents the Medo-Persians, brass represents the Greeks. The great power have made, because all those nations are still here, but they're not in power. They're not in the power seat. They had their power seat. Known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain and the interpretation sure. Meaning it's going to come to pass. And to show you the Most High can give dreams to other nations. He gave it to the king of Babylon. He gave the dreams and the visions to Balaam, just to name two. Okay. So now let me bring this back. So it speaks about the sickle. We know it's talking about the destruction. The wine press is Babylon and the Lord stomping out these Edomites, which is parabolic, which is in Isaiah 63. So now let's go to Jeremiah. Now we know Gog and Magog is only mentioned in the scriptures only a couple of times. Ezekiel 38, Ezekiel 39, Revelation. As a matter of fact, let's find out. And it proves to you that Gog and Magog is not something that already took place. Gog and Magog is mentioned in the book of Revelation. The book of Revelation talks about what? It's prophesying about what's going to come in the future. So let me see what happens when I, okay, Gog. Okay, Gog is mentioned. Okay, it's mentioned in 1 Chronicles 5, verse 4. Mentions the genealogy of Gog. And then from there, it jumps to Ezekiel 38 and Ezekiel 39. So it's only mentioned in 3 different scriptures. 1 Chronicles 5, verse 4, his genealogy. And he came out of Japhet, Yapat. And then this is the prophetical part of it. Ezekiel 38 and Ezekiel 39. This is all getting ready to happen, as we know or should know. And then the only other place, it's only mentioned one time in the New Testament. So you know if it's written in the book of Revelation that it's something that did not happen. And if we know that, then we should know that Ezekiel 38 and Ezekiel 39 did not happen. You got to know how to line up these prophetic events. So you got to go back and study the prophecies. You got to get into the prophecies, man. And that's pretty much what High Priest Ariah got into. He got into the history, he got into the Hebrew, he got into the high holy days, some of the laws, but the main thing he got into was the prophecies. We know all these prophecies based upon what High Priest Ariah, all of the 7 taught us, but the High Priest Ariah, he would always go into Revelation. He would go, and I would say, wait a minute, you went through that in my mind. You went through that 3 weeks ago. We already know it. He would go through it anyway. And the reason why he did that is so, we don't have to go, hear it one time, because you'll forget it. You got to hear it. You got to go through it over and over and over again. And that's why you couldn't get it. That's why you got shook up, Deacon Athan, because a year and a half, 2 years ago, you said, yep, I can see it. The MOTB, you didn't say the MOTB, that's a term that we use. It's true. And then I said, well, when you gonna go tell them about it? And he said, and he made the statement he typed in a statement on either my page or whatever, we were going back and forth on a particular video. And he said this. He said the IUIC and the ISUPK are not ready to hear it, something to that effect. So what he did was he took that coin, that shekel, and he put it in a napkin and he hid it. So guess what? Just like the old bottle receiving new wine, it leaked out. So he came back and he said, wait a minute, destruction got to come first. And then, how can the MOTB come when this man is destroyed? What would be a need for it to come? So the Most High can destroy him again. They're already destroyed. It says here, Revelation 20, verse 8, and shall go out to deceive the nations. You really got to start at 7. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go to the commentary just to see if the Rakar Kodash is dealing with them Edomites. And when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loose out of his prison. Now, people, when they go through this, they'll read from the beginning, the 1,000 years, they were bound up in a chain for 1,000 years. So people will say, we're gonna get the kingdom, but then the Esau is gonna come back into power, he's gonna take us down again. I said, no. The scriptures are not necessarily written in order. Like if you go to a chapter, sometimes the first verse should be at the end of the chapter. So this is talking about the 1,000 years after he comes out of that that state that he's in, from approximately 325 to 1325, 1350 to 1400s. That's when the Renaissance came on the scene. I'm preaching to the choir. It says Satan freed and then doomed. And oh, look, it references you back to Ezekiel 38 and Ezekiel 39. So it says that when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loose out of his prison. When did that happen? During the time of Christopher Columbus. I went through this many a times. And shall go out to deceive the nations. What is going to be the last deception? The last deception, the first deception was their form of Christianity. If you didn't believe in their Christianity, they put you to death. That's the origins of Esau's Christianity. If you didn't accept it, they killed you. It says, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog. So we know that this is talking about the whole entire earth. That's why it says what it says in Revelation 3 verse 10. It said Gog and Magog to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. And that's what? That great destruction. The valley of Yahweh Shaphat in Joel, the 3rd chapter. Like I said, I'm going to say it again. All these various prophecies that the prophets received in visions and in dreams is the same event. There's the same event. And I said this before. The prophets of old didn't know what was going on. What they did was they saw the vision, they wrote it down, and we have it now. They didn't understand what was going on. We see it crystal clear. So before verse 8 of chapter 20 on down comes to pass. Well, it says right here, 9th verse, and they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about and the beloved city, and fire came down from the Most High out of heaven and devoured them. Devoured who? This system. And he's going part of his vengeance is going to come through Gog. So this is not hard, man. Jeremiah. It's a nice long chapter. I did a breakdown on this, a full breakdown of Jeremiah 50 and Jeremiah 51, but they took them videos down. So let me come down here. Eighth verse, remove out of the midst of Babylon and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans and be as the he-goats before the flocks. Because he-goats, they live out in the wilderness. The scriptures speak about the wilderness. We're going to gather in the wilderness. We're going to be beamed up. We're going to come down in the wilderness and we're going to take the whole world. Kind of like what Putin is doing. His strategy, that strategy is called the cauldron. Because they're surrounding, the Russian military, they have the Ukraine and the Ukraine military surrounded. And now that they surrounded them, now they're going to squeeze them. You know, they're going to come in. It's called, in military terms, it's called the cauldron. All right. Now let me do. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. What I'll do is I'll look it up another time. It says 8th verse, Jeremiah 50 verse 8, remove out of the midst of Babylon, talking to us, and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans, which is America, and be as the he goats before the flock, meaning we're going to be out in the wilderness. We're going to be like preppers, man. We're going to be off the grid because there's not going to be any grid to go to. And then the whole world, they're going to suffer. They're going to suffer from supply chain issues because a major event happened. Like they said this before, they said this many times. If America catches a cold, what is the old saying? If America catches a cold, everybody else sneezes. Something to that effect. In other words, what's happening in Russia over there now, with the whole Russia-Ukraine incident is affecting us all the way over here. You notice how the gas prices just jumped up. That same place that I went to the other day where it was $3.99, now it's $4.09, but down the street it jumped. It was the same price, $3.99. The gas station across the street, that gas jumped to $4.39. And there's one, it was on the news, I believe it's in California. There's certain places where a gallon of regular gas is $6 and change. What should come to mind? The movie I Am Legend. Remember when he passed a gas station and it's a regular, it was $6.19 or whatever. And when did that come out? I think that movie came out in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon. We know what Babylon is all about, an assembly of nations. So that's what the Lord is doing with Putin. He's causing them to come up. Those balkanized nations that were part of the former Soviet Union, he's bringing them back together. And the spirit of the Most High is behind him. The spirit is with Putin, man. The spirit is with Putin. Because Putin is doing what the Most High wants him to do. Man's goings are of the Lord. So how can a man then understand his own way? It said Babylon, come up against Babylon, an assembly of great nations. Now, the Ukraine is a great nation. Who came out of the Ukraine? The two Klitschko brothers. Alexander Usyk, Lomachenko. That's just in the sport world. They go to the Olympics and they win gold medals. You got a lot of wrestlers that come out of the Ukraine. It says an assembly of great nations from the north country, which is Russia, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence shall she be taken. Their arrows, which are the ICBMs, shall be as a mighty expert man, none shall return in vain. All those missiles are going to be shot. There's not going to be one missile that's going to go off course. Joel 2. There's not going to be one missile that's going to go off course. And Chaldea, which is Babylon the Great, shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith the Lord. Let me look up the word satisfied. Let me see what the Hebrew word is for satisfied. The song, Do It Till You're Satisfied. Shabai, which means to be satisfied, be sated, be fulfilled, to be surfeited, to be sated with food. That would mean like you eat and tell you, yeah, I'm full, I'm gonna get up from the table. To be sated, be satisfied with, be fulfilled, be filled, have one's fill, to have in excess. So it just means to be satisfied. Because ye were glad, because ye rejoice, O ye destroyer, destroyers of mine heritage, which is talking about Babylon, you destroyed the heritage of the Most High, which are the sons of Israel. Let me look up the word heritage. Nachalah, possession, property, inheritance, heritage, property, portion. Where the Most High's portion, share, inheritance, portion. The portion of Jacob is not like them. That's in Jeremiah 51. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I'm right. Jeremiah 51, verse 19. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is, Jacob is, Israel is, the former of all things. And Israel is the rod of his inheritance. Well, the former of all things is talking about the Most High first and foremost, and then Israel. The Lord of hosts is his name. It's talking about the Lord. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. He's talking, the Lord is talking about the Israelites. It says, and with thee I shall destroy kingdoms, break in pieces nations. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war, for with thee I will break in pieces the nations, and I will destroy with thee will I destroy the kingdoms. And that's ultimately what we're going to do. So we're living we're living at the end, the last few seconds. We're literally right at the door. We got our hands on the handle and opening the door for all hell to break loose. So this is a major event that's going on over there in Russia, in that region of the world. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna say shalom.